I mean, can you talk to us about a specific emotional moment that you've had in the last, say, 18 months? Boy, I wonder what happened 18 months ago. But say in the last 18
I
months
don't
or so.
remember.
Too bad there's nothing that's happened.
But talk about that period of time and an emotional moment that you maybe had that made you say, wow, I'm doing a lot already, but I've got to now do more because I really don't like what's happening in the government.
Yeah, so my backstory is kind of like I worked basically outside of politics. I was basically a social media nerd. I would just get on and say my views on social media. When Bernie came out and started promoting single-payer healthcare, that's something that I had backed for like 10 years before then. So that was a moment that really got me involved. So I had never donated to a campaign, never volunteered, definitely never phone banked, never canvassed, definitely did not work in an office for a campaign before that time. And when he came out to do that, that really, changed my mind and showed me that, okay, maybe there's a chance. I was very cynical in the past. Maybe there's a chance that we can actually have somebody for president even that's for the people. And I had not seen that before. And I had not felt like I had people to vote for before that. I'm not a party guy. I'm obviously running it as a Democrat, but I don't think that parties themselves are the answer. I think we need the issues to be addressed. And that's what I really felt Bernie was doing. And that's the angle he was coming from. So I went out and I started phone banking, and I hated that. So I don't know how people can do that. Thank you for the people who do that. But I cannot do that. That's not my thing. So I started canvassing, and I really enjoyed it. The walking, talking to people, getting to know people, getting people's reaction and surprise that Bernie Sanders was still running in California by the time we came around here. And surprised that we were out there. And I actually kind of graduated through that process to become the staging location director at the Sacramento for Bernie, which did the whole Congressional 6 district. So I was sending out canvassers to the whole Congressional District 6. So this is this is someone who basically spent his political time online behind the scenes on a keyboard, going from that all the way to being a staging location director for an entire congressional district. This is the impact that had on my life. And since then, I've been involved in other campaigns. I helped out on the Los Rios School Board campaign for Valerie Martin. I helped out with some SB 562 canvassing. I've been literally in the streets for a lot of issues and canvassing and supporting a lot of issues and other candidates as well during this run.
And when you're hearing from other people, other people that are newly active about the environment that we're in and how people think about what they can personally do and bring to the conversation to establish some change here.
Well, I tell people we have California privilege. What that means is we are very shielded here. As the whole country went more red, at least on paper, we went more blue. So we went that way. We had 60% of people vote for Hillary, who was the Democrat in the race, obviously, and I think it was like 39 or 37% for Trump. So we still are a very Democratic state, but that's on the surface. And we need to look below that surface and see what's actually going on underneath. And unfortunately, our state legislators don't really represent the people of California or their districts. We have a lot of problems, especially in the LA area, where we have fracking going on in the middle of LA, underneath neighborhoods and schools, shopping centers, and this hasn't been addressed. And the reason why is because we have a lot of political money going in. So I think one of the biggest thing that unites like any side of the aisle, because there's more than just Republicans and Democrats, is corporate financing of elections. We need to get that out of the picture. It's not as easy as ending Citizens United, because we can still have corporate donations directly to campaigns. I, as a candidate, if I were so inclined, which I am not, could accept $5,000 from a corporate PAC, from each corporate PAC. So if Comcast sets up 20 corporate PACs, they can all donate $5,000 to my campaign. So there's other ways of getting corporate money into elections. There's also maxing out individual donations for everyone on the board of your corporation. So there's other ways of doing things. So we're seeing that being done now by other candidates. Feinstein will just go out and accept corporate donations. So she doesn't have to hide anything because she's just, out in the open with it. She accepts money from anywhere, basically. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the other candidates are doing the kind of more under the table. I'm not supporting I'm not against charter schools. And then you look at their information, their donation information, and then you have Eli Broad the charter school king basically donating to their campaign. So this is the issues that we're coming across now, to where that corporate money, they can run as a progressive or call themselves progressive and still accept those corporate donations and still vote for those corporations. And that's the issue I think we're facing. So that's why I'm running, and that's why I believe a lot of other people jumped in the race, is to run corporate free, to get that corporate money out of politics. We have like a loose slate across the whole state and country that are running corporate free, because that's one of the main issues that we're facing, is that the toxicity of that corporate money in the election system, and the toxicity of just wealth in general in the election system. If I were a millionaire like Dianne Feinstein, I could donate $5 million to my own campaign like she did. And the way you do that is you give yourself a loan to your own campaign. That way you can get the money back theoretically in the future through donations from supporters. I think that whole system's like disgusting. So now you're saying someone who's rich, like Trump, can run for office, self-fund, and get into office based on their own funding. Now they don't have to answer to corporations, that's true. But they also don't have to answer to me and you. So that's the issue that I come across with self-funded campaigns. So when Dianne Feinstein can turn around, one day, and as a shot over the bow of all the other campaigns, loan herself $5 million, that's an issue in our campaign finance system that Ending Citizens United will not address. So I want to go all the way to public funded elections. But I think the question was, why are people getting more in, and how are they doing that? Running for office. We've seen a lot of marches. We need to turn those marches into voter registration and votes. So that's another thing. We see some of the more mainstream marches, like the Women's March and the March for Our Lives. We see a lot of people in the streets. We need to turn those into votes, and we need to turn those into votes for the non-corporate candidates that will actually represent us.
Yeah, and we see that those corporate candidates, turning into a failed experiment of failed policy, because, last week we kind of went back and forth with the producer, Chris Smith, I did, and about that California is still the liberalist state in the union, and that when Republicans attack California for being the most liberal state, I mean, are we anymore? I mean, there are some other states that have done some things, and we just, having a Democratic majority, haven't pushed the needle that far. I mean,
yeah, and that's the thing, is we have the superficial, we have what I would call the mask, and then you tear the mask off and you see what's behind it. So if you were a Republican in California and you had all Republican values, and let's just say theoretically that you ran as a Democrat, you could win in a purple district, even maybe in a blue district. You could vote the same exact way Republicans do, and you could stay in the party, in the Democratic Party, and get promoted and endorsed and supported by the party, and not depending on your votes. And that's what we're seeing with Feinstein, even more with people like Ami Bera, where they go and vote along with Trump, a certain percentage of the time, sometimes over 60% of the time, on really important issues to California, and they vote against us. And they still call themselves Democrat, and they're still a member of the party. So when it comes down to it, if you are only involved in like a gang mentality or a tribal mentality of, as long as they're wearing the blue shirt, then they're our guy, that's where the issue comes up with me, with parties. Like I mentioned before, I'm not really a party guy. I'm running as a Democrat. It's necessary to run as a Democrat, I believe, in California. But at the end of the day, it's the issues that matter. And if we can't back up the correct issues for California, then why are we claiming to do so? Mm-hmm. I mean, the Democratic Party arguably has the most progressive platform in the nation, but no one follows it. So, I mean, what's the point of having it? And now the party themselves, some of the conservative Democrat delegates in the party are chipping away at that platform even, and taking stuff out of that platform that we previously had. We fought hard to get SB 562 and single payer onto the platform in word for word, so we're for single payer healthcare. And now they're chipping away trying to remove that. We stopped them from doing it before our convention, and they're going to try and do it again probably. Mm-hmm. So if we have corporate Democrats, they're going to act just like Republicans. They're just, a better version than a Republican looking at it from a relative view. So people will continue voting for the incrementalist approach because they're better than the other guys. Well, if we have California privilege, let's use that privilege, and let's put people more to the left in office, and let's actually be a threat to the Republicans. Because right now it's all superficial.